Hi, everybody. Welcome to Remarkable People, 3 Questions and Lively Conversation, hosted by me, Kippy Helsel, and my wonderful friend and colleague, Ronnie Wright. Ronnie, would you like to introduce today's 2 wonderful guests?
Kippy, thank you so much. I would love to. It is my pleasure to introduce Alan. Yes, we have 2 Alans with us today. Both are remarkable with over 25 years in our industry and 2 gentlemen that I personally admire. On the East Coast in Florida is Alan Tabasky. Alan merged his company Hurricane Line with BEL Promos and is the Vice President and General Manager of BEL USA. On the West in California is Alan Vaught. Alan is president and co-founder of top 40 supplier Evans manufacturing a large percentage of what they sell. Welcome and thank you for being here today. Right on to our first question. So I'll start this with Alan V. Blue Alan, California Alan. All right, so the world and our industry does not look the same as it did just 6 months ago. So looking ahead, what does the inventory landscape look like in the next 12 months? And what are the pressure points affecting inventory? As for new products, how much investment will there be in inventory for these as well? Thank you.
Wow, that's a great question. I'm going to have to get out my crystal ball. I think inventory overall on a supplier side is actually very high right now. There's most suppliers had a really strong 2019, got off to a pretty strong first quarter for 2020. And with that, most suppliers were building inventory to respond to what was anticipated to be pretty high demand this year. Certainly when, well, it was actually March 13th, when kind of the whole COVID thing shut the economy down or slowed the economy down, these high inventory levels now turned into super high inventory levels as a percentage of revenue. So I think what's going to happen is, unfortunately, a lot of this high inventory levels and stainless steel straws, tech items, event-related products, that's been kind of sitting, and the stuff's been flying off the shelf has been the hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, all the PPE products. So with that, although inventories are high, the inventories of the products that are moving is lower, and most suppliers that I know are a little bit strapped for cash to kind of turn their non-moving inventory into moving inventory. So I think we're going to find next year probably less, people are going to be a little more conservative. I mean, I know we will be. There's a saying that pilots say, I'd rather be on the ground wishing I was in the air than in the air wishing I was on the ground. Meaning that I think a little more conservative approach, and if you miss with over inventory, and most companies either are constricted by some kind of cash flow. Certainly private companies, or even the private equity guys, are constricted from how much cash are allowed, will be allotted to them. We don't need to have more inventory than we have now that's not moving. So I think on the inventory side, that's how I would see it. I think Alan East Coast Alan probably has a better feel for this than I do. They're probably bigger in importing than we are. So let's see what he thinks.
All right, pitch it over to you, Mr. T.
Well, thanks everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I've known all of you guys for a long time, and Kippy, known you for 100 years, maybe, maybe a little bit less. Ronnie, known you a long time. Alan, we're really good friends. I've known Alan for quite a while too. So this is fun. It's just nice to be invited, and I appreciate it. Inventory. So I agree with everything Alan said, and everybody's inventory is a little higher than they would normally be carrying right now because of how demand has kind of shifted. We all had great. I know Alan said, talked about 2019, which was good, but the first quarter of 2020 was probably the best quarter that we've had in a long time, if not the best. So, and I think just about everyone I've spoken to has been about the same. So, first quarter of 2020 was great. So now you're planning for, do we have enough inventory moving through 2020 because of how good it's been? 19 was fine, 19 was good, but you came into Chinese New Year buying, before 2020 started. 2020 first quarter was gangbusters, and you know, now you're scrambling to try to find, we were at least trying to find domestic inventory to maybe fill in some gaps in between our China imports and so forth. Called Alan for some blank stock and called other people that I know for blank stock. And others called us as well. And then of course, you know, whatever that day was in March where, you know, everything just kind of fell off a cliff.
13.
And then, yeah, and then everything changed.
I know exactly. 9 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. So the next day, everything was different. So it's inventory levels were one thing, but what's hard now is the planning part, right? That's the difficult part. So it's uncertainty due to COVID, uncertainty due to closures of different businesses. The elections are coming up, right? How's that going to affect things? We're pretty optimistic, and we have seen a steady promo growth over the last maybe even 4 months, but we definitely see trends coming back. It was all PPE for us, you know, masks and sanitizers and things. Probably in April, we started really early, beginning of April, but now we've seen that fall off a lot, unless it's printed, you know, because this is the promotional industry, and promotional products are what drives up, and a lot of PPE items that are selling well now are printed products. So the blank things are falling off a lot. I could see our trends of our water bottles coming back and travel mugs coming back, ceramic mugs. So all that's moving in the right direction, not as fast maybe as I'd like, but it is moving in a positive direction, which is great, which makes it tough now to plan, because now we have our Chinese New Year buys coming up, right? So what do we plan? What kind of increases are we looking at? And like Alan said, with a crystal ball, right? So what are we looking at for January, February, March of next year? Actually, all the way up to June, because our Chinese New Year buys, we don't produce any, you know, we don't actually make anything in the US. We do have USA products, we don't make anything in the US. So now we have to kind of plan on all the way out to May and June. So that's where it gets a little tough in our forecasting. Pressure points are, you know, is just kind of what I'm talking about, all rolled into my same long run-on sentence that I would get a C+ for in school. So just trying to work it all into our demand forecasting. You know, we forecast very analytically down to the category, subcategory, and SKU level. So glassware, for instance, is down a little bit more than some other categories because restaurants and bars aren't promoting as much as they were before. But it is slowly coming back. But you know, it's challenging. But you know, we'll all get through it, and I know we're all working hard to get through it.
I know. Well, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Alan, it's interesting because I'm hearing some of my colleagues now, other suppliers, say that they're seeing their sales drop off, and we really haven't. Our sales have been pretty much consistently growing from about May, June, July, and we're continuing to grow. Certainly not at the level we'd like to see, but what had occurred to me is that most of the people I talked to got really heavy into PPE, and we really didn't. So we kind of missed the lift from the PPE. So what we're seeing is the PPE product sales are going down, and since we weren't that big into PPE, we really haven't felt the second wave of the decline that some of my friends are starting to feel and see. So it's it's definitely a challenging environment right now to try to plan inventory. You know, as Alan said, you know, they're forecasting out, you know, 6 months. Well, you know, in March 12th, you could have been forecasting out 6 months, and March 13th, everything you did is gone. So it's definitely challenging. It's not the easiest environment to be worked in. Well, we do quite a bit of manufacturing in the U.S., and that actually helps from a inventory planning part, but still the whole labor thing is a whole nother piece of this, because with manufacturing, we have a real high labor content, maybe less material, but high labor content. And it's not like you just can roll people in and out of the business as the demand changes. So it's definitely challenging.
I know this crisis, literally, I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere. We were talking about supply chain, and then the next thing we know, businesses had to close. It's just been an unreal set of circumstances. And wouldn't it be nice to have a crystal ball and to know, you know, what next year looks like at this particular time?
Sometimes you feel like you're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
You know what I would like to know? I would like to know if Alan has pants on.
Hey, just so you know, Mr. Tabasky, I had to walk through the office to get into my office. I want to see you stand up, big guy.
I'm not sure yet.
Just use your imagination, the magic of Zoom.
Don't do
Kippy,
that.
let's move on to question number 2.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
And I want to say I love you both. And you too, Ronnie, but you guys are great. So as you all indicated, and as I know, as a supplier operating very much in the same product categories as you guys do, it's obviously very complex. The inventory, the whole question of staffing. I mean, it all goes, it all merges into, you know, a big picture that has many moving parts. Kind of continuing, another area that is complex and has a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that impact our decisions, sourcing, and where is that going? So Alan V, we know that you do a lot of manufacturing in the United States and in North America. Alan T, of course, you're majority an importer. And the industry, of course, is majority import when you really break it down. So thinking about our sourcing in light of all the pressures that were happening even before COVID, okay, just given the tariffs and the whole question of Chinese hegemony and everything, between China and other Asian countries, and then Mexico, which has been growing as a manufacturing base and source for imprinting in North America, and then of course the US and the whole concept of trying to bring back manufacturing to the US. What are your thoughts in the big picture about sourcing based on all these different factors that we're dealing with now? Where are we heading? Do you want to start with that one, Alan T?
Sure. Kippy H. I'll tell you, it's interesting. So where at one point, most everything that we imported, or that most people imported, came from China. We started a diversification strategy a couple years back, which has really helped a lot, especially in this climate right now. So when the tariffs started, which was, yeah, it all blends in together. I don't even know what year this is. So when the tariffs started, we had already had plans that we were moving out of China to wherever, you know, we found that we could, doing our best. And this was done over a couple years before this happened. Otherwise, you're stuck and you have no place to go. And regardless of what anybody might say, you know, China doesn't pay the tariffs. So it's a situation where it worked out well for us. But really, when you look at it, China has, I'm going to say 20 years, just as a round number, of infrastructure buildup over the last couple of decades. So they have it down, and they have a resource-rich country. So regardless of how much you try to move your supply chain out, there's just a lot that just can't be moved. I mean, unless you're making some products here in the US or in Mexico, like Alan does, Alan V. So a lot of times you're kind of stuck in China, just based on the product categories that we carry as promotional items, and then trying to switch out where you can. So even some of the countries that we've been successful in importing from, there's still a lot of raw materials that come from China. You're saving on tariffs and things, so all that helps. And diversification, which is what we started with, not because of China per se, but just to diversify, so we're not, you don't have all your, proverbial eggs in that one basket. So we moved a lot of products to the US that we were importing from China. We moved products into other Asian countries that we're importing from China. So we just kind of had that overall strategy over the last few years. I believe lucky for us. It worked out well for us. But it is, when it comes to sourcing, Asia is really where most of the products come from. Raw materials from China is where most of the Asian countries do get their products from. And you really can't beat China right now. And they've been doing this for so long. I mean, there's other emerging markets. People talk about the continent of Africa, possibly. There's a lot of labor there. There's a lot of, there's not a lot of infrastructure. There's not a lot of maybe technology right now. That might be a place in 10 years from now, maybe less. I don't know, it's hard to know, but for right now, it's still, the Asian countries and primarily China, as much as you try to diversify from there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can add much to that. I think, Alan, you've definitely spent way more time especially the last year ago. I remember every time we talked, you were either on your way to China, or on your way to Vietnam, or on your way to Myanmar, someplace, or on your way back. But I would concur that the infrastructure in China is so far ahead. I mean, if you go back years ago, when I was a kid, it was like made in Japan. The inexpensive stuff came from Japan, then it was Taiwan, then it was Korea. But when it hit China, it seemed like it just, probably size of the country and the labor force they have and the political infrastructure, they've been able to really dominate. And I mean, it's hard not to buy something from China. I mean, because we're a U.S. manufacturer, my family's always, we're pretty quick to look at the country of origin before the price tag, but most people aren't. And when you look at that, it's hard to find products, go through a hardware store, or Home Depot, a grocery store, or maybe not so much groceries, but you look for things that are not made in China. It's not easy. So, and to your point, Alan, that even with some of the factories we work with, maybe there's one starting in Myanmar, but it's a Chinese factory that set up a facility in Myanmar just to kind of get around the tariff, whatever they're trying to do, but it's difficult. And I think it's you have to start at someplace to get to someplace else, right? It's kind of like a stepping stone. I mean, the Wright brothers didn't start with the 747. So it has to be a point where you start and then it progresses. But I kind of think China is going to be around for a while. It's going to be a slow, we do quite a bit of manufacturing of our own products in Mexico, and they're nowhere near have the infrastructure with China. I mean, there really isn't. It's unbelievable how structured China is. And it's not, I mean, you spend more time than me around, and I've been just so impressed. It's not like you walk and you think you're going to walk in these dirty factories. I mean, these are state-of-the-art factories of robotics. I mean, they build iPhones there. It's not an easy place to get out of. As much as people try, and tariffs probably has some impact, but it would take a pretty high tariff to really turn that supply chain to where it's really where they really feel it. So,
you know what I need? I need some analogies like Alan. And I noticed your analogies are all flying analogies.
Are they?
Your 747, the Wright brothers, rather be on the ground than in the air.
Well, it's I don't know.
But to that point, so Alan V.
Yep.
Evans is known always as a U.S. manufacturer.
Yep.
I mean, that's how you started. That still is at the core of your line. And yes, we know that you have added some capacity in Mexico. But to the big picture of manufacturing, potentially more manufacturing coming back to the U.S., how do you look at that? What are the odds of that really successfully happening? And what could the product categories potentially be relative to our industry?
Yeah, I think what's helped us on that part, cost-wise, again, if you go in Asia, it's hard to beat. Even in Mexico, Mexico has a low cost structure, but not compared to China and the Asian countries. The U.S. manufacturing, what's helped us is just speed to market. We can, and in Mexico too, we're on a border town in Mexico, so we can ship across the border daily. So that helps also. If there's, if you can get products in China that are decorated in China and shipped ocean freight, I don't think anybody's going to beat that environment. Once you put something on an airplane, the cost goes up significantly, and that's where we can compete pretty well. So, for us, when I was thinking last night, I didn't know what this, the questions were going to be, I guess, until we sat down. But if it got into what the industry used to be like, and Alan says he's been in 25 years. I've actually been in 26. I won up to Alan on the time in the industry. But it used to be 3 week lead time. But lead time was 3 weeks. You got an order today. I mean, literally, it was 15 days, and you'd leave 15 working days. So it'd be 3 weeks out. So you place an order today, and we'll ship it 3 weeks from now. And the East Coast is going to take a week to get it. So people planned events a month ahead. And now we look at, half the orders we get are shipped out here in 2 days. And that really plays havoc on inventory and inventory levels. And that's where our U.S. manufacturing can do pretty good, because we can, and Mexico as well. We can make things pretty quickly. So we have raw material, and we can kind of mold it or cut and sew in Mexico. We can make any shape or any size we want, so we can react pretty quickly. I don't know. I kind of skirted your question, Kippy. I'm not sure that the U.S. manufacturing is going to replace Asian manufacturing for a long time. I think that would be maybe a pipe dream from some people. Certainly, we've got a little lift. I think with the with the tariffs, just the uncertainty, at least we could make promises that we could live with, right? Because the uncertainty wasn't in front of us. Where the import products, there was a lot of uncertainty. Are the tariffs be 25%, or is it going to be 15%? Are they going to be, there was a lot of moving around that I think most people didn't really understand. I'm not sure we understand. And we've got people, and that's all they do is work on those kind of things that we don't understand. I'm not sure how end users or distributors could possibly understand it. But I don't know if I answered your question or not. But,
no.
Yeah.
And no, I think you did.
You guys do a lot of you guys do U.S. manufacturing, right? And you make blow molded bottles. I mean, you're kind of in the the same
Yes.
world we're in. So if I flip the question to you, what do you think as far as what's going to happen with U.S. manufacturing?
Well,
Am I allowed to do that? Alan T, am I allowed to flip the question on the moderator?
Absolutely, yes.
All
It's
right.
in the
Well,
rules.
yeah, it's our own
Next,
rules.
Ronnie. Tell
As
Ronnie
we
she's
go
next.
along.
Go ahead.
Take it away,
Just
Kippy.
wanting to we still have a couple more questions. So, but I agree. I would say this. I think that the whole reaction, the whole scenario around COVID has now kind of proven the point that it becomes about price and price only at a certain point. So where, people have been willing to potentially pay more for USA made, and they were starting to, I think last year was starting to see more willingness to spend up and have certain criteria, whether it was USA made, whether it was ecologically sensitive, clients were willing to pay more. How that would have translated long-term in the real costs of US made products, we would have had to wait and see. But I think that the whole coronavirus situation created a value-driven need. So I think price is, so it goes back to, I think price is still ultimately a factor. And at some point, maybe it will be overcome by just the growing demand and expectations for what we as a country really decide are our values, in terms of that.
I would agree, but from our experience, there's a threshold, and the threshold is not very far from low. I mean, and most people go to the price tag before they go to the country of origin. That's just human nature. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way, it is. So, I mean, if you, So anyway.
I agree.
Good.
Okay, let's get on to our third question.
All right, and I agree as well. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's all been said. So I'm going to move on to one of my favorite questions here. And, we guys, we all know each other, but the two of you, Alan and Alan, you're great friends. How is it that competitors in our industry have managed to cultivate such a great relationship? Sort of like Kippy and I.
Can I start with that one?
Yeah, by all means, Alan, take it away.
Number one, I'm not sure Alan and I are great friends. There's an old saying that says, "Keep your friends."
Well, you fooled us.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So I keep Alan as close as I can.
Frenemy.
No, you know what? The real answer to that is that if anybody knows Alan, they would feel like I do about him. Honestly, I really would, because he's I think it's an industry like no other, and it's a sharing industry. I'm not sure how many people have watched the product, product responsibility summit last week. And there's people up there sharing, secrets that you would normally be, almost boardroom level. And they're out there telling, how they do things and why they do it and how their sales are and, how they handle hand sanitizer and how they work with the FDA. That stuff you wouldn't normally see shared in most industries. So it's pretty remarkable that the people are as open to dialogue. And I'm sure there's a limit, but Al and I will talk, we'll get to an edge where, it's like, how much more can he ask me or how much more can I ask him? There's a point that maybe you kind of stop probing, but I think overall, it's pretty incredible. And I got to say that, part of this with the association and even ASI's involvement early on in the industry, I think those are both real family oriented organizations. Certainly PPAI is and ASI is. You look at the Cohn family or Paul Bellatone, and those guys have done, I think, an incredible job setting the example of what a family is and what you can talk about at the dinner table, right? And then when they have events, they kind of put suppliers together with the distributors, and it's an interesting environment, and I would say it's pretty fun, really. And then the new people come in, they say, well, it's just the way it's always been, right? I think this culture is ingrained so deep in the industry now. I don't think it'll change. I really don't. I think this is what it's been, and it probably will continue to be. And it does make it fun because, being able to call Alan when I have a hard day is a lot better than going home and talking to my dog that doesn't really seem to. Kind of looks at me like, and I can talk to Alan on the way home. I'll give him a call, and it's 10 o'clock his time and 7 o'clock my time, and he's always willing to take a phone call, and I can complain. And by the time I get home, I'm in a great mood, and everybody thinks that's just, everything was great today. So.
Well, your next dog, you're going to have to name Mr. T. So it'll.
Good idea.
That was good, Ronnie. Each time. So how do you feel about that, Alan? Do you feel the same way about the relationships in our industry, or do you feel that there are obstacles to these developing these kinds of relationships?
You know, I haven't found an obstacle yet. I really have not. Um, you know, what Alan said was great. Talked about Paul and about the Cohn family. I wish I had thought about that so I could have said it, but it's absolutely true. You know, for all the years I've been in this industry, and the amount of people I've met, and just about every one of them is my friend from when I started and still friends now. You know, I remember, I'll go back to some stories. I remember I did an NSA roadshow. Really, I don't know if you guys remember NSA roadshow. I think it was Kent Markley, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I first started traveling to these 5 different cities in 5 days, driving from town to town and setting up a little pop-up booth. And I was in a Holiday Inn. It was the winter time because it was snowing outside, you know, it was 90s. And I met Bob Bickert, and Bob was the owner of Crown, you know, back in those days,
Right.
actually, many years ago already.
Yeah.
Bob was in the gym and he was always working out, and I was in the gym. And we just started talking and became friends. And, you know, now it's, I don't know, 25 years later, you know, and when I met Alan, I think it was really Luke Williams that kind of brought us together, right? We did his birthday party. We went to Bondurant and did race car driving.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
His birthday, maybe 6, 7 years ago.
Alan, I mean, not that it matters. I'm not a very competitive person, but do you remember who had the fastest lap time in the
Well, I remember.
I'm not a competitive guy.
It was probably you. I got nauseous and I had to sit out the last day because riding around in circles at 100 miles an hour, it's just not for me. I'm not a roller coaster person.
That is where we met, though. That was a great weekend. That was
yeah. That's how we met. We became friends and just
Yeah.
you know and here we are today. And you guys, you know, Ronnie, I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't quite remember. Were you with ASI?
The Impact.
Well, I was with Impact.
Impact.
That's where you and I first met. Yep.
Dale
That's
Dennis,
where we first met.
Yeah, with Dale Dennis and Ronnie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Kippy was my first ASI rep, like in 1990, whatever that was.
Right.
Small hurricane line. You know, we just started the industry,
I remember.
and we're all still friends. I mean, all these years later. I mean, this is what the industry is about. You know, it's fun. You know,
I gotta say, Alan, just for fun, and not to get into deep detail behind it, but you know, you mentioned Bob Bickert, and I met Bob Bickert in the middle of a patent lawsuit between us and him, and it was like, you know, my attorneys kept pushing me, come on, you can get this guy, kept pushing back in the ring, and his attorneys kept pushing him back in the ring. And one night, about 9 o'clock at night, I got a call on my home phone. I don't know how he got my number from Bob Bickert. He said, you know, this is crazy. We're killing each other. And I said, my attorney said, and finally said, you know what, can we talk in the morning? I'm kind of tired. We got up the next morning, had a call about 8 o'clock, and literally, I mean, huge amounts of money spent from both of us. And when it got done, we became best friends. It was like, you know, the patent attorney went away and they're saying, well, yeah, you shouldn't give up. You just keep, you got this guy, you got him. You're giving up or give him a left hook. And his attorneys are telling him the same thing. And it turned out we ended up being great friends. I mean, he's a great guy, right? And that's what you learn in the industry. That's crazy.
Well, you learn about the people, the person, you know, and there becomes a great amount of respect. And I think that's really true, that mutual respect, you know, for each other, and the willingness to, you know, share the good and the bad. So truly. Kippy, do we have time for our bonus question?
We do, because we're going to make the time, because this whole interview has been fabulous. And I do want to say, before we get to it real quickly on this topic, Ronnie, you and I have been the closest of friends, competitors.
Yeah.
What an
Love
important
you.
friendship, personal friendship, even more important than the business friendship. But we've both helped each other. You have helped me in business so much, and I love our friendship. Alan T, you are one of my best friends. I love you. Alan V, I love you, and I owe our friendship, yours and my friendship, to Alan T, who really brought us together.
Yeah, that's right. And Chris Lovell, I think Chris Lovell has been influenced.
Oh, Chris, well, if we want to talk about the great people in the industry and somebody that everybody loves and that we all cherish as a friend.
Can I ask Alan T a quick question? Is that fair?
Yes, you.
Just a real quick one. Alan T, does Kippy say you're her favorite, Alan? Because that's what she says to me.
She actually does.
Did.
Oh, there you go. Holy moly.
I can find the text.
We better get ready for the bonus question.
Alan, it's like if you're on a plane, there is somebody sitting in first class. It may not be you. Okay. Apologies. Okay.
Ask Kippy, who's your favorite, Alan? It's kind of like asking your barber if you need a haircut. Say, Kippy, am I your favorite, Alan?
Of course.
No, Alan and Alan, like bookends. You know, you need two. You need a pair.
Love this. So yes, we're going to wrap up a little over time, but it's so fabulous and we love it.
Sure.
So we've got a fun question for you that you'll laugh when we
We would
ask
love-
it. But when you're going to sleep at night, what's the last thing you're thinking of?
You want me to start?
Yes.
I'm thinking, I can't wait till business turns around and I'm drinking Grey Goose again. I've been drinking a Springfield store brand vodka for the last 8 months with 1 olive instead of 2. And every night I go to sleep and say, I can't wait till I open a bottle of Grey Goose and put my plastic store brand Springfield vodka. I could, use it to wash my car or something. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I think about when I go to bed at night.
Alan, T?
All right, well, I should say my wonderful and beautiful wife, Heidi.
Ooh.
But lately, it's been my mountain bike. And the trails I've been
Oh, those
hitting it.
gears.
So, yeah.
Okay.
The truth is, the real truth is,
Where are there mountains in Florida?
Yeah, it's a long story, but there's Great Mountain Bike Park right near my house.
he's feeling pretty,
we're gonna have to
you
talk.
feel pretty strong, Alan, riding up the top of an overpass. I did it. I made the hill. Right. With the 4 gears and yeah.
Well, I do have to remind both of you that we got this bonus question after we had a separate conversation with you guys, obviously, where somehow, I think Alan T, you brought up when I go to sleep at night, I think of Alan Vaught. I mean, that's where, so Ron and I were like, there's our bonus question. So that kind of went
Well,
right
you know
over
what?
your head. I was expecting you to lead into.
But here's the real answer, probably the right answer. Alan mentioned his wife. I mean, honestly, when you go to bed at night, for me, honestly, I think of how lucky we are really to be in the industry we're in, with the people we're in, the family we have.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. I mean, it is as bad as it seems sometimes. Honestly, it could be much worse. We've got a pretty good lifestyle, and we've got a good industry to be part of, and the reality is, this will get better. I mean, there's 2 options. Either everybody dies or it gets better. And I don't think everybody's going to die. So it's going to get better. Maybe it's a year or 2. We just got to kind of sweat through this, and when things get better, we'll be back where we were before. And I really can't wait to, go to one of the events where I can see you guys in person, come to your party, Kippy, and see everybody. And I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Well,
Me too.
Ronnie and I
Thank you.
cannot thank you guys enough for, this has been an absolutely wonderful, lively conversation. And we're so appreciative of your time, and we love you both, and we are just delighted. So let's call this interview an end, and we hope everybody has enjoyed episode 4. And we love Alan and Alan. So thanks everybody, and have a
Thank
great
you.
Thank you.
a great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Let me
guys.
make
Thank you.
sure I know how to